time for Cigar Talk, the fastest growing cigar show in the nation. Whether you're a new cigar enthusiast or a cigar aficionado, we have something for everyone. Bringing you the best interviews, cigar reviews. So grab yourself a cigar.
It's time to light 'em up.
Welcome back to Cigar Talk. I'm your host, Rob Jones, and this week we have a special treat. We have Z-Man himself, Zeka, from California, and we have another Z-Man, Zach, from Abilene, Texas, joining us. Bryant couldn't make the show. He's working on hemorrhoids, but he'll be back hopefully in a week or two. But anyway, how's it going, guys?
Good.
You have to, speaking to the mic, Zaka. There you go. Hey, so anyway, we're going to do a special show today, and the crew that we have together here is going to be perfect for this topic because I was on Twitter earlier this week and a guy that does a podcast on cooking, he's a chef, said he listened to the show and he'd love for me to do a show all about what new cigar smokers need to know about. And it's like, you could go back and listen to all our shows and pick up bits and pieces, but we're going to condense it into one show. This is everything a new cigar smoker. And when I say new, what's the definition of new, Z? I mean, that's not like you just started yesterday.
No, I'm going to say new.
Push that mic over, bro. Yeah, get it right there.
You know, I'm just filling in for Bryant every time. I think new is relative to the person. You know, some people take on knowledge faster than others. Some people.
And there's some cigar smokers that when they start, they dive in head first. Like they want to learn everything. That was never me. You know, I wanted to enjoy myself. And so I learned the hard way. Trial and error. There's a lot of shit that I did wrong that either somebody finally said, what the hell are you doing? And so that's how I learned, or just by watching other people. But there are people, like I interviewed a guy probably 2 or 3 years ago. He was keeping a journal of every cigar he smoked. The band, write out what notes he tasted and all that. I was like, dude, that takes all the fun out of it for me. But to each their own.
You know, that brings you to the guy that, because his journal says so, that's too dark, that's too dark, that's too dark.
Yeah, it's funny because earlier today, me and Zeka were in the humidor at the Leaf, and you could tell the guy was like very, very new. Anyway, he was not a man of humor. I'm pretty sure that I offended him right out of the gate because he walks into the humidor, and I go, hey, I know that guy. And he was like, you do? And I was like, are you a drunk? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, well, then I thought you were someone else. Sorry. And from that point forward, I think he was pretty much done with me. And then when I said, don't worry about it, dude, I was just fucking with you. So, and I said, well, what are you going to smoke? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, well, you want some help? I can show you. I mean, you know, I know a little bit. And anyway, he said, I like light to medium. I'm like, all right. So I started showing him some different cigars. Zeka showed him a couple of cigars, and every answer was like, no, that's too dark. Okay, well, that shows you he's new right there because the color of the wrapper does not indicate the strength of the cigar.
I mean, that got me for a long time because I had a dark cigar, and it was real spicy and stuff. It wasn't my style. And I equated dark cigars to spicy and heavy and
bold.
Bold, yeah. And so that is not the case at all.
Well, and I mean, a lot of the bold cigars and spicy cigars are on a dark wrapper cigar.
Yeah.
But the Sin Compromiso, that's not a strong cigar at all.
No, that's a very medium stick.
And that wrapper is super dark.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's some cigars out there that are lighter cigars, and you sit down and you get to the back quarter of it, and all of a sudden it sits you on your ass. You want to talk about bold, like,
dude, I smoked a 45th series of the 1964 anniversary Padron.
Yeah.
And I actually got the sweats.
Oh man.
Like last week, dude. And I haven't had the sweats in forever. And I told Jay, I was sitting there smoking. I was like, dude, I'm actually lightheaded and I got the sweats. And he was like, well, he said, I got a lollipop. And I was like, you know what? I don't want it right now because I just want to enjoy this feeling because it's kind of a unique experience that I hardly ever have. And I was like, and it was almost like having a little bit of a buzz. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so after like 15 minutes, I was like, yeah, I'll take that sucker and some water now. and if you're new, just so you know, if you do get the sweats and feel lightheaded, to fix that,
or like you're going to throw up, or, I mean, the jitters. I mean, that's all that stuff that's
I call
Nick
that
sick.
the punch in the throat.
Yeah.
You kind of feel that like lump right there that feels like someone punched you. But usually, if you have something with some sugar, it'll go away in no time.
Yeah.
Very true.
That's one thing you talk about new cigar smokers. I mean, I would consider myself relatively new, but I had no idea until just a couple weeks ago when y'all were talking about that exact issue. And you get the Nick sickness, and something with sugar will help raise that blood sugar up and it like goes away instantly as soon as it hits your bloodstream.
Yeah, and I heard, I've never tried it, but I heard the best way is either to take a sugar cube or like a packet of sugar for like your coffee and just put a little bit under your tongue, and it's like super fast because that layer of skin under your tongue, which is a lot, like a female's, no, never mind. Anyway, it's very sensitive, and it's like bloodstream, and it's like, bam.
Yeah.
30 seconds and you're feeling better already.
Yeah. I think a lot of what determines whether somebody's like new to cigars, like for me, I would consider myself new to cigars, but I've been smoking cigars for over a decade now. However, it was a cigar every couple of months. I would realistically, like for the first several years, I was smoking maybe 5 cigars a year. It was occasionally every now and then.
And that's exactly how I got started.
Yeah.
It was about once every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And then, once if you first get into cigars, you have your first cigar and you smoke 2 or 3 cigars a week or 2 or 3 cigars a day for a month, I would consider you, however many sticks you put down, that's going to determine how much you learn about cigars, and you're no longer a newcomer to it.
Well, let's start really at square one for a brand new cigar smoker. Like you've only smoked maybe 2 or 3 cigars or none at all, and you go into a cigar shop. Like, what the hell are you going to do? Like, that's a brave new world to go into because you don't know shit. And when you go in there, you see people sitting around smoking cigars, so you assume they know everything.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit intimidating. But my advice is go to a shop and ask the tobacconist to help you.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask because
Talk to somebody.
Yeah. I mean, still today, I go to the Leaf and I'll be like, hey, Scott, come pick out a stick for me.
Yeah.
He knows, my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And so he usually picks out a stick I really like because he knows what I smoke.
One of the better cigars I've ever had, I walked in and said, hey, Jay, what should I get? And Jay goes, huh. And he goes, huh. He kind of looks around, looks at me, looks around, and pulls one off the shelf, and it was the Chupacabra 10-year. I know you don't like it, but it was really, really good for me. Smoked great, super enjoyable. And that was just, somebody who knew more than I did.
Absolutely. And now I'm not a fan of that cigar, but I'm not saying it's a bad cigar.
No,
it's just not my palate.
Yeah, not your thing.
And so as a new cigar smoker, though, you don't have a palate.
Yeah.
You have no idea what you're looking for. You have no idea, like, picking out notes. I've been smoking them for a long time, and I don't recognize a lot of notes that I see cigar reviewers pointing out because, 1, I think they're full of shit, and 2, my palate's not that sensitive.
I think most of those notes are on a wheel like that, never get spun.
Oh!
They just spin and throw darts and hope for the best because, I'm not new, but I'm not a professional.
Well, I
would
mean,
actually
here's the
consider
thing.
myself a
You're not getting
student.
paid to smoke cigars, so you're not a professional, but I would not say you're anywhere near new.
No, I'm still just a student of the craft.
And I
But
think that's the best place to be, though.
I get 2 flavors. I like it or I don't.
That's me. Thumbs up, thumbs
I
down.
like it or I don't.
Where would you rate the cigar 1 to 10? It's 0 or 1.
Right. No, I mean, for me, along the way, I'm not just the thumbs up, thumbs down guy anymore because it comes down to a lot of factors on if I'm going to smoke that cigar again. One, was it a solid cigar? You know what I mean? And or at least and I'm sure you have, you smoke cigars that the tobacco was just shit. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I'm not smoking that again. But then there's other cigars, like in my humidor, there's a Alec Bradley Project 40 Maduro. It's not a great cigar, but if I'm going to be in a situation where I want to smoke a cigar, but I don't give a shit if I have to throw half of it out, it's a great stick.
So that would be another tip for the
Slide that over, bro. No, slide the mic over. I want you to be comfortable, see. There you go.
Well, you don't have no knee pads in here, so.
Well, yes, I do.
That would be another tip for a newbie, though. Along your journey, don't be afraid to revisit stuff you've liked and disliked.
Oh,
you know?
Absolutely. And because, dude, I can remember there was a cigar made, and this is embarrassing, but I had a cigar that I actually loved at the time. And it was made by Sinclair Cigars. You know that brand?
I've heard of them.
Okay, so they are like dirt cheap. Like I think I bought a box for like $50. And it was called the Bamboo. And it was a 6x60, beautiful, dark, oily wrapper. And I'm pretty sure that the filler was like wadded up trash newspaper. Because it was just, I've gone back and been like, dude, you smoked a shit ton of those. But now I could never smoke them. But when you don't have a palate, you really don't know that much difference between good tobacco, medium tobacco, or shit tobacco.
True.
So as you learn, go back and try cigars that didn't do it for you. Because as your palate grows, it's like, oh, well, I didn't notice anything about that cigar, but now I do, and I like it. Or maybe you still don't. But there's been a lot of cigars where I was like, oh, that's garbage. I'd never smoke that again. And then maybe 2 years later, I smoke it, and I'm like, you know what? That's actually pretty good. Yeah. Have you had that experience?
Quite a few times. It's always revisit. Your palate's ever evolving. The tobaccos in that cigar are ever changing, whether they be aging or a new crop or, because even though they maintain the same line of cigars for many years, it's not the same tobacco every time. They do their best to blend it to be the same every time, but it's still,
it's a natural product. You cannot repeat perfection of a blend over and over.
No two crops will ever be the same.
Well, so here's my question. The manufacturing of cigars, are they all hand-rolled?
Every one of them.
So there we go right there. I mean, that's just
long, fillered.
Yeah. So that's another deal, too. I mean, you're talking about a handmade
Are you
product.
aware that, in general, 200 hands touch that cigar before it gets over here for you to smoke?
Well, I hope so, because if my hands are the only one that touched, this could be a shitty-ass cigar.
But that goes, like, for the person who's planting the seeds in the nursery. Yeah. And they grow them up to, like, that big, and I'm doing a hand gesture, so, 6 inches?
Yeah, 6 to 10 inches, something like that.
And then they put them, or they actually ride the back of a tractor. What are you saying? I don't know what 6 inches
You're
is?
lying to her, Rob. You're lying to her.
That was a very manly 6 inches.
So, but then they have a guy or girl that rides on the back of a tractor, and they have this funky little plow thing, and as they're riding down the row of the field, they're setting those plants down in the row.
Yeah.
And as the machine goes over it, it folds the dirt back over except for what's up.
Yeah.
And so then you have the person who goes out and trims it. They go have people that process it. I mean, it's a long process. And if you haven't ever seen the whole process and you're interested, there is a great Davidoff documentary.
Seed to Smoke.
Seed to Smoke. Man, I've watched it. Although I did skip through all the talking in the office, I just watched the actual part where they're showing what they do.
I actually listened to the entire thing.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It's like 2 hours or something. Yeah. 3 hours. I don't know.
It's a cigar and a half. It was a good watch.
I have ADHD, so I covered all the parts I see there's plants.
Well, one other thing, too, I think that is intimidating for people who are getting into cigar smoking, we talked about this on a previous episode, but price doesn't always indicate quality.
Oh, no,
And
not
so,
at all.
And a lot of people will walk in and they're like, well, I really want a good cigar. And they're going to look at it and be like, well, I'm going to go with like a $17 or $18 cigar. And so you blow that money. And then if it's not a good experience, that turns them off to cigar smoking in general. It's like, well, hell, I'm not going to go blow that money on a crappy experience.
And you might think, I spent $20 on a cigar. It wasn't good. What do I got to spend 40?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which
Yeah.
is not true.
Yeah.
But that's actually how I got into cigar smoking. Because I was meeting up with Tim every 3 months, and we didn't know shit about cigars.
Yeah.
So I figured, if you spend $20, it's got to be a good cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had no idea if it was good or not. I was just smoking it.
It's like a movie, man. I mean, it's like you may spend, you may go watch a movie for $20 or whatever. If you buy 2 tickets and it ends up being a shithole.
Where are you going to the movie?
Like you and your wife, yeah.
Yeah, if you're
It's been a while since I've been in the movie. It was pre-COVID prices.
if
Yeah,
you're getting 2 tickets for $20, you're doing good.
but then then you rent a movie, for $5, and it ends up being a great experience because if you sit down and smoke a cigar, depending on how quick you smoke it, you're talking about an hour to an hour and a half of your day. And so not only is it a monetary investment, but it's a time investment.
And I like the analogy, but take it one step further. Cigars are very much the same as in how you would enjoy a movie.
Yeah.
In the fact that when you find one that you really like,
Yeah.
you'll watch that son of a bitch over and over. How many times
absolutely.
you seen Dumb and Dumber? Come on, never.
I've seen it. I'm not one that can sit down and watch a movie twice. If I see it and I can sit there and know what's going on.
Christmas Vacation. You don't,
Once.
Are you serious?
Very rarely do I ever watch a movie over
Tombstone,
again.
Braveheart,
Once or twice.
Godfather.
Maybe. Once.
Man,
Well, those last 2 are too damn long. I mean, I just want to watch the fight scenes in Braveheart, and then The Godfather is just a
The only
brilliant film, really long.
have you seen The Irishman?
I have
How many times have you seen it?
only once because
I've
it
seen
was
it
3.5
4
hours.
times.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it, I watched it again 3 days later.
Huh.
It's like, dude, when you're doing something good, I want to watch it
Kind of
again.
unfair if you look at like the top best movies of all time. Scorsese's on there like 17 times out of the top 100. It's ridiculous.
I'm not big into movies as it is, but when I do watch one, I just can't watch it more than once. But the one movie that I've seen more times than I care to admit was Grease.
Oh.
And that was because my 8th grade teacher, every time she come in hungover or something, we'd sit there and
No
watch
way.
Grease.
Can you imagine playing that movie in schools these days?
Oh gosh.
Oh, God.
Dude, that movie was dirty.
Yeah.
Well,
You know
they're
what I
all
mean?
they're all like in their 30s and 40s in the movie too. Which
Right.
is funny when you go back and look.
They're playing teenagers.
Yeah. And it's like,
But I like that analogy because when I find a cigar I really like, I'll go back to it over and over. And when I find a cigar I don't like, I'm not going to keep going back. Now, I will retry it if it was not a bad experience,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to keep smoking it over and over.
yeah.
So, like, in your stage of being a new cigar smoker, have you developed your palate enough to like, I really like this cigar, and I smoke it more often? And then there's other cigars that you try, but
Yeah.
you always go back to that.
Yeah. If I don't really want to sit there and try and pick one out or spend a lot of time looking and stuff, Rocky Patel Sun Grown or Rocky Patel Connecticut. Those are my 2 go-tos. And then now I've been kind of working my way through Drew Estate because I want to try, and branch out and see some more and stuff because I pretty much smoked myself through the Rocky Patel collection. But if that's my go-to, yeah, absolutely. Like if I'm, just want a cigar, I don't really want to try something new. I know what I want. I'll go Rocky Patel, Connecticut, or Sun-Grown.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have any like regular go-tos? Because I know you smoke a lot of different cigars, Zeka.
I actually just tried to get a box and he's out. Disappointing. But
Chromacraft.
Yeah, it's actually the Intemperance EC Charity. It's a 4x46 Connecticut. And it's just a great 20-30 minute coffee stick in the mornings.
I don't think I've had that one.
I've burnt through boxes of them. The My Father Labors You 1922.
Oh,
the Petit Robusto.
That's my
There's
favorite.
always a box of those in my humidor.
Yes.
And then usually the Neanderthal HS is another one. It's a 4x46 Neanderthal. It's just
4x46. I haven't had that.
6x46.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, I don't know that one.
It's a Corona Extra.
Gotcha. And of course, everybody knows that I'm going to be smoking Medallias from McAuliffe and Tabanero. I love the sun grown. And I mean, on the sun grown Tabanero, dude, I really love it in the Robusto. Like, I've smoked it in the Toro, and it's good. I've smoked it in the 6x60 Torpedo, and I'm not near the fan in that Vitola as I am the Robusto. But, you know, I like smaller ring gauges.
See, that was one of the cigars I handed New Guy in the humidor today, and all he did was go, I stick to the bigger brands. They're better.
Right.
That guy's going to be new for a long time.
Yeah.
He's going to be new because he's not willing to listen. You know what I mean?
And I mean, everyone needs to know, that getting into new cigars as well as a new smoker, you have to know that the best cigar you're going to smoke as a newbie is a free one. The second best cigar you're going to smoke as a newbie is a recommended one. And the third best cigar you're going to smoke as a newbie is one you pick out. I mean, that's just, you know, when you're going along, that's how you're the learning process. And so definitely, as somebody knows what the hell they're talking about, even if it's a recommendation, I mean, you would take that because you have no idea. You don't know.
Right. I mean, dude, and especially when you walk into the humidor at the Leaf, which is huge.
Yeah.
For a brand new guy,
oh gosh,
you're like, just like, what the hell?
And if you're smoking, you know, a cigar, you know, 2 or 3 cigars a month, you know, relatively steadily, you could spend in several years just on one wall.
Oh
at the
yeah,
Leaf,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. And I mean, I don't remember, but I think the humidor at the Leaf is like 22 by 36, something like that.
It's bigger than most apartments. I mean,
and
it's large.
It has 2 islands with cigars, and then the cigars are from floor to about 7 feet, maybe 6.5.
Yeah.
I can reach it. Larry might have to come in and get it.
Larry can read the top and everything.
Right. So, but that's a good point to make to a new guy is when you go into a humidor like that, don't feel like afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't work at the Leaf, but I've been in the humidor, I can't even count how many times, and I was like, hey, what are you looking for? You know, I like to help people, and most other cigar smokers are happy to help you.
Especially if you're going there to grab a cigar for a specific event, like a promotion, and you know you're going to have this cigar while you're drinking, you know, champagne or wine, or you're drinking a bourbon or a scotch, or I'm going to have it with the meal, or I'm going to drink it, or I'm going to smoke it with a cup of coffee, or I know I'm going to smoke this on the beach. I mean, it's all this setting
I'm
type
going to
stuff.
say this. I don't think a lot of new cigar smokers know to smoke a cigar and pair it with coffee.
See, I caught that. For me, that was, I paired that up pretty quickly.
Now, were you already a heavy coffee drinker?
Oh, big time.
See, I didn't drink coffee until after I started smoking cigars.
Really?
Because it paired so well.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't like coffee because I was like, why would I want to? And well, to be fair, the only coffee I had ever tried was like at work that was just rancid, awful coffee.
Yeah.
And I was just
Pot
like, coffee sucks.
Yeah, it's like,
And so me and my wife were at the Leaf one day, and the Leaf has very good coffee.
Oh, exceptional.
I mean, very good. And my wife was like, you should try this. I think you'd really like it. It'd go well with your cigar, I bet.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like coffee. And she's like, just try it. And I tried it, and I was like, wow. The coffee experience was like, I can taste that coffee more than I can taste my cigars because I was still pretty new.
Which, that's a good point, though, because I was the same way. I found out that coffee is really good with cigars at the Leaf. And because, you know, this is like my 6th or 7th cigar ever, and I was having it at the Leaf, and I realized, oh, you have a full-service coffee bar. And I was like, well, I like coffee, so I went and got a coffee, had the coffee with the cigar, and I was like, oh, this is nice.
So that's what I'm saying. If you're new and you like good coffee, try it with a cigar. Try to find whatever it is that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
And then start finding a cigar to pair that with.
Yeah.
And if, you know, being new, I would highly recommend that you ask somebody. Say, hey, you know, I really enjoy drinking this coffee, and I would like to smoke a cigar with this coffee or with this bourbon or with this scotch or whatever it is that you really like, and ask help from the tobacconist. Say, hey, what would you think would pair well with this? Instead of just going into the humidor blind trying to find something, because you could find a shit ton of cigars that don't do anything for that pairing.
Oh, yeah.
I'll admit, today was the first day I had the coffee from the leaf.
Oh,
I think it was at Kenya. I'm impressed.
oh,
Great coffee.
I mean,
And I don't even take my coffee that serious. I'm not.
well,
You
I
know,
mean,
I drink coffee. I like cigars with coffee. I actually really enjoy cigars with coffee, but I don't take it that serious.
Yeah, I was sorry. I looked at my phone so I could get the actual name of it. But Habana Restaurant on South Congress in Austin, great Cuban food, and on their dessert menu is Cuban coffee with a cigar.
really,
On their dessert menu,
Can you
Habana
smoke the
Restaurant.
cigar in there?
So they have patio seating.
nice.
And so they say, there's a little disclaimer on there. Hey, we recommend, if you're going to get this, you need to be on the patio. You can move to the patio.
Congratulations, Zach. You just made a new friend. Ollie want a cocker? He's all yours.
Yeah. And so we had it out there, and it was Cuban espresso with a cigar.
How was the Cuban espresso?
Oh, I love Cuban espresso. That is just delicious, period.
Now,
And paired with a cigar.
you don't put anything in it, do you?
So Cuban espresso is, depending on where you go,
It's like a thimble.
It's small. It's a single espresso shot, and they brew it different ways some places. So here in Abilene, if you go to Big Country, they'll do a Cuban espresso, and it is a shot of espresso with brown sugar and like a drop of heavy cream. Some places will do it where they actually take the brown sugar and they tamp in the espresso cup. They'll tamp the brown sugar in and then put the espresso beans, the ground espresso beans, on top of it. So when it siphons through, it liquefies that sugar directly into the espresso shot. I think that's how it was there.
I would think that would be the best way to go.
Yeah, and it was on point. It was spectacular because you're full and you're feeling heavy and everything like that. And so you want to sit back and you get that shot of caffeine with a nice cigar.
With the nicotine.
And all of a sudden it was like, yo, I'm ready to go walk around and do stuff, and I don't feel like, a cow.
Down in South Florida, almost any Cuban restaurant that's worth its salt, at the end of the meal, they always bring you a complimentary cup of Cuban coffee.
So good.
Sometimes a Cuban coffee is better than the whole meal.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I've never had it.
Oh.
I would
missing
love
out.
to.
Yeah.
Now, I was talking to someone the other day, and this is going to go off topic, but he was telling me about the Middle Eastern coffee.
Like Turkish coffee.
He called it something else, but close enough. And he was saying that they all put sugar and cream in it. That's what they do over there because it's so strong.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I'd like that because I'm just not a big fan of sweet stuff.
Well, like that happened with espresso, period. Like the Americano you get at most coffee shops it's espresso cut with water, because American GIs in Italy during World War II, they would get Italian coffee and they'd have this espresso and it was way too strong, so they cut it with water, and then hence the Americano. It's the American style of an espresso coffee. And so, but that's like your regular cup of joe that you would have here. That's really good coffee. It's just not as strong. And some people prefer the espresso. You see, I got ruined. Before I really got into drinking coffee, I had espresso from a really nice espresso machine on a trip in Europe. And you'll know it's really, really good espresso when it's super dark, and then there's this film on top, this white film, and it's called the crema. And that on top, when it's that really heavy film of crema, and it's just like, it's a pow right in your mouth of flavor. It's really, really good.
I got spoiled, and I want to give a shout out in Lubbock, Texas. You may have been there, but Ooh La Lattes.
Oh, yeah. Ooh La Latte's good.
They've got great coffee, and their service is fantastic. Their service. If you ever find yourself in Lubbock, Texas, go by, and it's a drive-through. Have you been there? Well, you can't go in your semi, but if you're driving through Lubbock, it's definitely worth the visit. I'll tell you more about it after the show.
Scenery's pretty nice.
Scenery is amazing. But anyway.
I've been to a few of those in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
I get it.
Hey, well, I'll tell you this. What I thought was crazy was, like, someone had told me about it, and I was like, I don't understand. You're going through a drive-through. The person is up here, and there's this little window. No. They have a window from down here up to there, and it's big, and there's a place to sit down, and it's like, wow, service is great. Anyway, let's get back on track with being a new cigar smoker. So, being a new cigar smoker, you might be brand new, like we said. Maybe you've only smoked 2 or 3 sticks, or maybe you've been smoking for 2 or 3 years. you could still be a very new cigar smoker. I mean, maybe you only smoke one cigar every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So you really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And unless you're like the one guy who writes down everything about every cigar, which is not the most common cigar smoke.
Even then, just the act of actually smoking a cigar is also, there's a trick to it, and you get better at it over time, and you can
sure.
enjoy cigars. Like for a long time, I would have cigars that would go haywire on me just because I didn't know how the hell to smoke them. And
you can smoke one too fast.
Yep.
You can smoke one too slow,
Yep.
which is usually you always have to relight it.
Yep.
But let's not even get to that point first. That's a little bit later. Let's talk about you have a cigar in hand. What are you going to do with it? Zeka, you want to cover this one? And
Cut
pull
it.
that mic down around. He's as bad as Bryant.
I thought I was filling in for him. I mean, I want this experience to be as real as possible here.
All right.
Authentic.
Cut it.
I mean,
Draw it.
for me, especially if it's a new cigar I haven't had, I do like to smell the foot of it just to kind of get an idea of is it going to be
fetish.
no. I do, but no, I'd like to get a sense of like the smell of the tobacco because I love when I find that cigar that has that deep, rich, like a Sin Compromiso.
Yeah.
I think those smell
See,
phenomenal.
I haven't smelled the foot, but I've drawn them across under my nose and smell them, and then
Make
the
you feel
cold
like the
draw.
evil
and-
villain in every movie when you're driving.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I do like to sit there and admire and overlook and enjoy my cigar before I actually light it up. And
because it's a beautiful thing.
it really is.
And like,
A well-rolled cigar is, I mean, it's again, handmade.
and
It's
the
an
beauty
art.
is in the eye of the beholder because a cigar that I think is beautiful, you might think looks trashy.
True.
I remember when I absolutely loved the LFD Cabinet 6 because the wrapper was like a quarter of an inch thick, or so it looked. And it was all like bumpy. It
Nice
wasn't
veins and rustic
I mean,
and-
it was
yeah.
like you looked like you could wring it out.
Yeah.
It looks like it was dipped in baby oil.
Right.
It's an
But it
amazing
was
cigar.
not like a perfectly round wrapper. You know what I mean? It wasn't like perfection, but I thought it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
So when you look at a cigar, enjoy the beauty of what it looks like because so many cigars are different. Like you're never going to see 5 different cigars that look exactly the same if you really take time to look at them.
You know, that's a hand-rolled work of art, each individual cigar. There's no
Absolutely.
reason why you can't admire it.
So
While
just
enjoying it.
on top of that, just because this one cigar burns bad, don't toss out the rest of them and be like, I'm never going to buy one of those cigars because they burn bad. You got, I mean, like you said, you got to go back at least again.
Oh yeah. I mean,
At least.
it's a natural product.
Yeah.
It's handmade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room for error.
And it's delicate.
Very delicate.
Yeah.
And there's some cigars that are more delicate than
Yeah.
others.
Perfect example is today. There at the Leaf, I got a Drew Estate, and I was standing there in the line to check out, and I wasn't paying attention, and I changed hands with it, and it fell right on the cap. Yeah. And so I go to cut it, and it immediately splits.
Split.
And I'm like, oh, God dang it. Here, you'll ruin this cigar and stuff. And then it's smoked beautifully.
Now,
Split and all.
so here's another thing. Now, first of all, the number one rule when you're getting ready to cut your cigar, especially if you're at a lounge and you're using the shop cutter, do not stick the tip of the cigar in your mouth and then cut your cigar. Nobody
Amen.
I was bad at that, and Larry had to get on to me. I'm telling you, Larry, I just
you
need
didn't
a
think about it.
I need a positive male role model in my life because I was over there gumming up the cigar and then sticking it on the company
It's like
lighter and
double
stuff.
dipping the chips
Oh,
in the dip.
100%. And Larry's like, hey, you animal. We piss in the bathroom, okay? And then don't do that to the shop deal. Bring your own stuff. You're going to get your nasty germs on. I said, yes, sir. Yes, Larry.
Well, and I mean, that's exactly the same way I learned.
Yeah.
Before I knew, I didn't know.
Yeah, because you know, and then naturally too, like if you're using your own cutter or punch or whatever, you know, whatever you're using, it by giving it that little bit of moisture, it's going to prevent it from splitting.
Softens it up a little
Softens
bit.
it up, and so it makes it easier to cut. And so, yeah, if you're using your own tools, go for it. But again, that's shop
So-
etiquette.
But see, yeah, I was gonna say there's, it's not some like pretentious bougie club to be in, but there's a certain level of etiquette in the cigar industry, and especially in the lounges and the shops.
Absolutely. You know, if you're going to cough, close your damn mouth. You know, like it's the same deal. It's a hygiene deal.
If you want to be an animal, stay in the East Texas swamps where you belong. Just kidding. No, but I mean, okay, so that we break that down. You don't stick it in your mouth if you're using a public cutter.
Yeah.
I usually carry my cutter. Sometimes I do, though. Sometimes I don't, though.
Well,
so like today, I use Zeka's cutter. I mean, I didn't lick it before I, used his cutter. So that's rule number one. And the next thing you really should do is really take the time to look at the tip of the cigar before you cut it. Yeah. Look and see where the cap is. Yeah. And the cap is like a Jewish yarmulke that they like put on top of the, what do you call it, the shoulder, the tip, one of those.
The head?
Just the head. Yeah, there you go.
Just the head.
So
now do you cut it at the first, second, or third cap?
Well, it really depends on the cigar, because if some caps actually come down quite far, and then there's some cigars where the cap is like, man, you're barely going to not cut it all off, even if you take off just a little. So on those, you should know that if the cap is very, very thin and just covering the top section, you're probably going to want to go with like a punch.
Or a V-cut.
Or a V-cut. But even with the V-cut, I've actually cut through below the cap, and the caps come off because I cut and I use a deep V cut. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you this, whenever I'm cutting with a deep V, if I have a smaller ring gauge, I mean, you see how that fits in there? I won't slide it all the way down. I'll like pull it down just a little bit and then cut it so I'm not going as deep. Yeah. But that just comes from experience, knowing if I cut it all the way down, it's going to screw up my cigar.
Yeah. That also comes down to is like, I prefer a punch because it's harder to screw up a punch.
It is.
Yeah, a punch is pretty straightforward. You can screw up a regular cutter, and then, like you were saying, you can screw up a V-cut. A punch is pretty straightforward. And it's super easy to pack a punch on a keychain or a lanyard or something. You know, it's really small. It's easy to fit in a cigar bag, like a go bag or whatever you might have.
And see, I'm not a fan of the punch at all. Yeah. I can't stand the punch. Now, are you a punch guy?
I have one on my keychain, but that's just because I need one if I don't have another cutter anywhere. I've actually pulled my ID out and used it to cut the cap like a pocket knife.
Yeah.
Or I've used a punch, but
you know what? I've used my little case knife many times just to cut a little sliver off.
You see, and I've used.
My problem with punches though is there's not a lot of them that are
big enough.
Yeah. I think that, the 9 and 11 millimeters, the standard punch. And
9 is 9.
Yeah, they're pretty small.
I have seen a 11 and a 13, and I'm like, 13 can get to be too big if you're smoking like a Corona Extra.
Yeah.
But the 11 is usually pretty good. I think Cigar makes one that looks like a spark plug, and I think that one is a 13. But I never used one because I'm not a big fan of that. I like to open up my cigar so I can get a good draw.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's a great other point. I completely forgot the draw on a cigar.
Well, we haven't got to that part yet because we're cutting.
Yeah.
So you're done cutting, and before you even light the cigar, I'd like to take a cold draw.
Well, can you check a draw? Obviously, you can't draw on the cigar before you cut it, but can you check is there any way to give you a indication of what kind of draw it's going to have prior to cutting it and actually drawing?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, that's what brought up my curiosity with the whole draw test thing that we discussed.
Yeah.
So I can't run my hand down right where the draw would be and see if it's firm or if it's loose or anything like that.
No. Now I'll tell you this. I'll go in and when I'm picking out a cigar, a lot of times I'll feel the cigar to see if it feels like there's a big knot in it.
Yeah. And so for those listening, we're talking about usually where the wrapper is towards the end of the cigar.
That's where you normally find the hard balled up part.
Yeah.
And I think it must be, and I don't know this is just my theory, but I think when they roll it, it balls up on the end or something, because that's always where it seems to be the tightest part of the cigar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't know what causes that.
No. But if you're going to go into a shop and do that, you start squeezing and pinching the cigar to check for it or not. One, make sure it's a cigar that you're probably going to buy if there ain't one there. Because
And
if
also
it
make
doesn't
sure
have cello on it, nobody wants you touching their cigar.
That's
But
a good
also,
point.
if you squeeze it too hard or roll it too much and it starts cracking, and now you've just messed up somebody else's cigar if you
That's a
don't buy
good
it.
point. Yeah.
Now, if it starts cracking, though, I'm thinking the cigar's too dry.
Yeah.
So if it's cracking, I'm not responsible for that. But no, I do agree 100%. Like, I'm not going in there feeling up the definition cigars with have no cellophane. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can miss all over somebody else's.
Yeah, I mean, you put the cigar down, and now whoever smokes it that comes in an hour later, your germs are on that, just like if you were licking it
Yeah.
or whatever you might be doing.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm definitely licking all over before I use the house cutter. I mean, 100%.
you're right.
Unless Larry's watching.
Right. So, anyway, I'd like to take a cold draw because if I can't get a draw at all and it's plugged, here's a way that I would recommend that you do it. And this is not something that I do, but this is something that someone gave me the tip, and I thought it was good, was you go to a cigar shop, you cut the top of the cigar, and instead of taking a draw like you normally would, flip it around and take the
done
draw
that.
from the foot.
Yep.
And that way, if it is completely plugged, you can go over to the shop guy and be like, hey, man, I just bought this cigar. It's completely plugged, and I took a draw from the foot. You want to try it from the other end? And let him test it and see
Yeah.
if there's a problem. Now, it depends on how you are. I don't like skewing cigars with tools.
So I have done that. If I'm having draw issues, usually it's after I've started smoking it, and I just can't get a good enough draw to keep it going and stuff. The way I want it to is I'll use the pipe tool, and I've used the pipe tool to punch the draw, and I'm sure that could be a giant big no or whatever. But that usually, if I'm having draw issues or it's plugged,
Well, you know,
that's
they
helped
make
me
tools
out.
for that.
Yeah, I
And-
just use a pipe tool because it's a round.
It's basically the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just not long enough.
Yeah.
I've got one somewhere, but I don't use it because for me, if I have to skew a cigar, it's just not. I'm already pissed off.
No, if I got to work for it, then
Right.
I'm here to relax and enjoy my cigar. I'm not going to put in all kinds of time and effort.
Yeah. So just for fun, I realized this because I didn't have a cutter or a punch or anything around me. And so I tested it out. I really wanted to smoke a cigar. I had no implement to use. And so I wondered if I could smoke it from the foot. So I pulled it around.
Absolutely, you can.
Yep. And I smoked it backwards, and it was fine. Worked great. I had no issue.
I know on the Cigar Authority show, they've done that at least a couple of times,
Yeah.
smoked them from the other end.
Yeah.
And they say it was a completely different experience. I've never done it except for on a sweet tip
Yeah.
because I don't like sweet tips.
Yeah.
And someone told me, well, flip it around because it's really good tobacco. I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
So I flipped it around. I cut the head off and I smoked it from the foot, and I still did not like it. But I tried it. So anyway, let's get back to this. So you cut the cigar, you take a cold draw, and the further you get along, people say that you can get notes on a cold draw. I don't really get notes on a cold draw. Do you? I get notes off the wrapper.
Honestly, I probably get better notes off of the cold draw than I do actually lighting
Smoking?
it on fire and smoking it. But they're like basic, hardcore pronounced woodsy chocolate.
Cedar.
You know, I'm not getting the lemon pledge and the pencil leads and, you know.
I get a really good taste of cold draw off of acids.
Are you sure you're not eating the sour apples?
Oh, it's really it's
One and
tasty.
the same.
Right.
I like to drink it with my Kool-Aid.
So that'd be an interesting pairing. An acid with Kool-Aid. Next time Bryant's here, that's what I'm going to set him up with. A fat bottom Betty and some cherry Kool-Aid.
Oh gosh.
So anyway, then it's time to light the cigar. And there's definitely a skill set to lighting a cigar. Now, there's going to be, you've seen the 3-match light before. No? So I found a video and it was made on, I don't know, but it was some sophisticated guy smoking and he was teaching how to light a cigar, and it was called the 3-match light. And the first match, he toasts the foot, which I am a believer in toasting the foot.
I agree.
Yep.
Then he holds up the match and puffs slowly, long, slow puffs, while he's slowly rotating. This is not like a hamster wheel where you're just like rolling it. You want to like let the flame go in, turn it, let the flame go in, turn it. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep rolling the whole time.
Yeah.
And then that would get it going, and then he'd light the last match, which would finish it off. That's too much pain in the ass for me. I am not some eloquent
No.
guy. So I like to toast the foot with my torch lighter. And then once I pretty much toast the foot, and I always make sure that I toast the edge all the way around, because I don't want like I hate it when I start smoking and I see like maybe, a quarter of an inch that I missed.
Yeah.
It's like, damn. Because I know that now that part's going to have to catch up, but I don't want it to catch up. I want it to start out right.
So
Speaking of which, what are you smoking?
Oh, I'm smoking the Casa Cuba.
Okay.
Have you
Divine Inspiration or?
No.
Oh no, the Casa Cuba.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, have you smoked any
I
of these?
have smoked a couple of them. That's the Fuente that I actually don't
It's
mind at all.
one of
It's a
my
good one.
favorite Fuentes.
Yeah, and at the price point too, it's a great cigar.
And did you know this about this cigar? This is a brick and mortar only cigar.
I did not know that.
I learned that last night.
Yeah.
I did not know that
We
either.
were online trying to buy them and couldn't.
No. I was actually watching Melanie Cisco's show, and Carlito was on there, and I said, I love this cigar. Somebody else was smoking it, and he was like, well, Angela Yu, who runs Carlito's lounge,
Yeah.
said the great thing about these are that they are brick and mortar only, because we wanted to have a cigar that cigar shops are not trying to compete with online sales.
Nice.
And so I didn't even know that, and I was like, I think it's one of their best cigars. Now, do you know where these cigars came from? Do you know the story behind them?
I do not.
So Carlito's father blended these when he was basically bedridden and couldn't leave the house, but he had all this special tobacco that he never got to blend, and he came up with the blends in his mind and then told the blenders exactly how he wanted them. So he blended them without ever being out there. That's pretty impressive.
Did he recover from his bedriddenness, or did he?
No, he died.
Passed.
He was old.
So that blend is his dying.
Well, and
Like,
the one I gave you, the
legacy.
Divine Inspiration, he actually dreamed that blend and woke up, wrote it down, and gave it to him and said, I want you to make this. This was the Divine Inspiration.
Hey guys, when it gets to like cigar knowledge and stuff, you got to draw me a fucking roadmap. All right.
Let's watch the fuck word.
Oh, that's fair.
Thank you.
When the good thing about cigars though is it gives you plenty of time to go down rabbit holes and do lots of research,
That is true.
even if it's
Yeah.
seems pointless, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I got really into cigars because as a student, I would go, I would love to go to the Leaf, smoke a cigar, do homework. Nobody would mess with me. Nobody would come up and ask me questions. Do you want to go to a party? You want to get this and stuff? Nobody knew where I was at. And then half the time I wouldn't even get my computer out, put my phone in my bag, and I'd have to read and do all that other stuff because I was a history major. And that's why I got back into cigar smoking at the Leaf, because I'm going to get to my master's, and it's the exact same way. Now, it's tougher now after, meet all y'all and everybody's
We
friendly
don't let
and
you
stuff.
study.
Yeah, it's exactly
We're like,
it.
what
Yeah.
are you doing? Put that book away.
Bad influences.
But it is, if you're doing something, it's really nice to, especially something that requires thought and you can't just do it real quick. You have to think about it. A cigar's nice. It's really nice to have to pair with something,
It's
like
very
that.
relaxing, too.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just the motion of doing it and knowing that you're taking your time. Because if you come in and if you're a cigarette smoker, let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. If you're a smoker of any kind, and when you start smoking cigars, it's completely different, because this is the one tobacco product or other products that you might be smoking that you do not inhale. Now,
Yes.
if you
Yes.
do, you're going to figure out real quick it's a bad idea.
You can inhale it. I don't know how much you're going to enjoy it.
Well, you know what's funny is I know people who smoke cigars that inhale
I've done
regularly.
A couple too. No, I
Well,
smoking cigarettes, and it's like
have you watched-
bigger man than I am.
What do they sound like?
Have
Is
you?
it just-
No. Have you've ever watched Ed smoke?
I guess Ed doesn't inhale now that I thought about it. Guy,
If you
coming
think
out of
about
his
it,
nose, yeah.
he will like puff, blow out smoke, and then like 8 seconds later breathe,
Yeah,
and then
it'll
more
come
smoke
out,
comes
yeah.
out. And I'm like, dude, you got to quit doing that.
Yeah, but Ed was in Vietnam, and he's so much manlier than all of us.
That
in
is
the
true.
room. I mean,
That is
yeah.
true. And then
With that whole story, the
You know-
way I found that out was funny.
you know the Perinis.
Yeah,
So Tom, the owner,
yeah.
he used to come in the shop all the time.
Really?
And he smoked the Arturo Fuente 858. That's all he smoked, and he bought it by the box. And he would come in every once in a while. He'd sit down and we'd chit chat.
Yeah.
And dude inhales, like 100% inhales. And I guess it's probably been about 3 or 4 years ago. I saw him one day somewhere else, and I was like, "Hey man, we haven't seen you at the Leaf." He said, "Well, I quit smoking." I was like, "What? How do you quit smoking cigars?" And he's like, "I was in France, and the hotel I was at didn't have an elevator. And on the third flight of steps, I collapsed, and they had to take me to the hospital. And the doctor said, if you don't quit smoking, you're not going to make it back to America." And so I was like, I don't understand that. I mean, my lungs are great. And he said, "Oh, well, but I inhale." And I was like, dude, that's serious. And he's like, "I always have." And I was like, "Well, can't you just keep smoking cigars and not inhale?" And he's like, "I can't."
Yeah. You're too close to it.
I mean, once you're in that situation,
Yeah.
you can't just quit.
Yeah, I mean, my dad smoked cigarettes for 16 years, and he always gives me a hard time. I talk about going and getting cigars and stuff. He goes, it's a gateway drug. Just a gateway drug, right back to cigarettes. Because for him, that's it. It
Well,
really
you know what's
is.
funny is probably about 3 weeks ago. Now, did you ever smoke cigarettes, Zach?
No.
You smoked cigarettes.
I did 20-something years.
Yeah, I smoked. I don't know how many I started with, but by the time I quit after 24 years, I was smoking 2 packs plus a day.
Yep.
And when I quit, like the difference of me walking from one side of the room to the other was amazing. Because when I smoked 2.5 plus, I would be winded from walking from one side of the house to the other. And after I quit smoking, that went away. And now that I smoke cigars, I'm not winded at all. Except, I'm fat, but I'm working on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't inhale your cigars.
Yes.
And I have accidentally done it more than once, probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. And I can tell you when it happens,
You know what happens.
it is not fun. It feels like someone takes a sledgehammer and hits you right in the chest.
Yep.
I mean, and it does not go away quick.
Yeah.
I remember the very first cigar that the aha moment went for me was a Christoph, and that was the first time I accidentally inhaled. Like, I was digging this cigar. I was like, holy crap. It was a very strong Christoph, and I was like, oh, pepper, spice. I can taste flavors. I've never tasted flavors before. And that's because I was buying $20 cigars that were like really refined. You couldn't taste shit. But now that I have this Christoph that is like bold and strong and spicy, I was like, this is what a cigar should be.
Yeah.
And then for the next 4 years, I smoked bold, spicy cigars because
Yeah.
that's what I thought they were
Absolutely.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't inhale. So that's a good lesson there.
Yep.
And then, so once you're lighting the cigar, you light it, you roll it while you have the flame. And the typical rule when you're lighting a cigar is to hold your torch at a 45-degree angle. So I see people all the time. Does this drive you crazy? They're lighting a cigar and they're just like that.
Yeah.
They're just burning the bottom
Done
of the
that
cigar.
a ton of times.
'Cause you didn't know any better.
Cigar. Yep.
And I mean, but I'm like, dude, you're not even on the tip.
Yeah.
You're just burning the bottom side of
And
that
then you
cigar.
wonder why your cigar burns
Canoes.
at a 45-degree angle.
See,
Yeah.
when I do mine, both of them are at like a 45-degree angle, and
Well, and you're
know?
watching it and you're
Yeah.
seeing where it goes. And I'll tell you, the best thing on the planet is, have you ever had somebody light your cigar for you? So
once.
I'd never had that before, and I was at the Paladin in Fort Worth, and I bought some cigars, and the tobacconist there was like, "Are you going to smoke that here?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You want me to take care of it for you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh." I handed him my cigar, and he cut it for me, perfect cut. And then he's like, "All right, here you go." And he hands it back to me, and he's like, "All right, let's go ahead." And he toasted the foot, and he hands it back to me, and he's like, "Go ahead and start puffing on it, and I'll light it." And so I'm puffing, and he's lighting. And the cool thing about that is, because he's standing over here, he can see the foot perfectly as he's lighting it for me. Like, I'm puffing, but he's got the control of the torch.
Oh, I thought you meant like somebody took it and like.
No.
I was at like an upper echelon type cigar, like tasting party one time, and they had what would you call them?
Strippers?
Upper echelon.
Oh, sorry.
They were more of the call girl level, but yeah, very beautiful women, and they were catering the cigars and walking around, but that was the thing, is they would cut it and light it, but then they were doing the whole.
Oh yeah,
They were putting it in their mouth.
Yeah,
I don't know how
And-
many dicks you sucked.
that was kind of. I think this is where Larry says there goes the G rating.
I don't want someone
But, yeah,
lighting
it
my
was,
cigar with their mouth.
It was like, I get the whole catering thing, but that was my thought too. It was like, wait a minute, you just took my cigar and put it in your mouth, and
And now,
this
and,
tastes like menthol.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have a problem kissing her later, but I didn't want her.
I could not. And the funny thing is, when the guy said, "Would you like me to light that for you?" the first thing I thought it was that he wanted to do that, and I was like, "I'm good." And he's like, "Oh, well, just a second." He cuts it for me, toasts the foot, and he's like, "Here you go, start puffing, and I'll light the foot for you." And I was like, "Oh," and so I started rolling it. Dude, best light I've ever had. Because he's got this single torch, and he's literally sees exactly where it's not completely lit up yet. So if you get the opportunity, I highly recommend it. And hopefully the guy knows what he's doing.
I remember you saying something a while ago too, about lighting your cigar in front of a mirror.
Yeah. That's
As a newbie, if you're lighting your cigars, light it in front of a mirror, so you can see what's going on the other end of it.
right.
You'll develop that feel for it.
And that is a great way to practice and get the experience without screwing up your cigar every time. Because I know I've screwed up a lot of cigars way back in the day because I didn't know how to light a cigar. And that is a very important part. If you don't light the cigar right, your chances of having a bad experience are very high.
yes.
True.
So now you've got your cigar lit. And let's just say the example is you're going to be sitting in the lounge smoking. First of all, you don't want to be hitting it like a cigarette.
Yep.
It's not meant to be smoked in 5 minutes. And if you do, you're going to be hotboxing it. And what happens on a cigar when you hotbox it, and what I mean by that is you're drawing so much air so regularly that you're causing that flame to really stoke and get hot. And the tobacco is not meant to get that hot.
Now you're baking your tobacco.
Right. And it changes the flavor. A lot of times it'll make it a rancid taste because you're overheating it to a level where the flavor is not good.
Yeah. And especially newbies, that's when the nicotine will hit you like a sledgehammer. If you're sitting there just overhitting it and hotboxing it, then all of a sudden you get hit with this nicotine feeling that if you don't smoke cigarettes, or you don't smoke, or you don't use nicotine products, you're not used to, and that's when it slams into you. And that's why you see people throwing up when they smoke cigars, because they don't understand, okay, well, I'm supposed to draw on this and enjoy the experience. And then, if you're going to smoke a cigar, you need to slot out hour and a half of your day.
Oh.
If you're a newbie.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I light up a cigar, my goal is to make it an hour.
Yeah.
I fall short of that because I am a faster smoker than most and probably faster than I actually should be. But as long as I don't make it hotboxed, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I tend to smoke faster than slower because I can't stand relighting cigars.
Yeah.
Because
And you also have ADD.
I'm ADHD. And so, if I smoke a cigar for an hour, that was a really good smoke for me. If I smoke a cigar in 30 minutes, I'm fixing to light another one up. That's just the way I am.
Yeah.
But you're sitting in the lounge, you're smoking, you're not smoking too fast, you're not smoking too slow. How do you know when it's time to ash?
To each their own.
To me, in a lounge,
Yeah, go ahead, Zeka.
a lounge versus my own home or outside or whatnot is two totally different things.
And that's why I prefaced.
I'm very conscientious of another person's house. And when you go to a lounge, you're stepping into somebody's house.
Yes.
You know, I tend to ash my cigar a lot more often in the lounge just out of fear of dropping ashes on the floor and the chairs. And
Well, I mean, how many shirts do you have that you burn a hole in?
a few.
I've got
A few.
I've got lots of shirts with holes because
And-
when you don't ash and it looks all nice because it's a long ash,
Gravity will ash for you.
boom.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not a fan. If that's what you enjoy is smoking a cigar and having a really long ash, knock yourself out. That's not me. I'm not here to be part of an ash contest.
No, I do feel that on some cigars, especially some of the bigger cigars, keeping an inch of ash on there,
Is insulation.
it's insulation. It helps keep that big cherry cooler. It doesn't burn as hot as fast, but there's a fine line between keeping enough to do its job and risking dropping it on something or somebody's floor.
My dad loves to tell me, these stories and stuff. And one of them was, there's a prosecutor in the South who was an attorney. He was a defense attorney, prosecutor, a lawyer, and he's a courtroom guy. And he was a courtroom. I mean, he was really good in the courtroom. He'd always smoke a cigar. And he had a tie clip that was pretty long. And before he would start his talking in front of the court, he would take out this tie clip and he'd put it in the foot of his cigar. And then he'd smoke on that cigar, and the ash would get ridiculously large. And the entire jury would be so enthralled in this ash. When's it going to fall? When's it going to fall? When's it going to fall? And if he had to squeeze something in that he didn't really want the jury to be privy to, that's when he'd do it. Because half the people aren't listening. They're all looking like, what's he going to do? And he's talking with his ash out, and he's slinging his arm around.
Back in
and
1975?
oh, yeah, when you could smoke in the courtroom. So that kind of dates it right there.
You could smoke everywhere.
Yeah, you're talking like Atticus Finch, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so he's slinging his cigar around, and everyone's all enthralled with it and stuff. And so that was his tactic. But,
I don't get the whole long ash thing personally, but
Like, I know there's shops that have, like, the long ash contest.
Oh, the Leaf did. Back when I was in college, they had a long ash contest.
And you know who won?
Didn't you tell me it was a girl who
It was
laid
a
down?
girl
on her
who
back?
laid down on the floor and smoked it while she laid down. And I was like, that is not what cigar smoking is about.
that doesn't seem enjoyable to me. But
I mean, I don't want to lay on the floor where every Tom, Dick, and Harry walks through there.
Well, time out. What was the prize? Because if it was like a free box of blah blah blah, yeah, my ass is on the floor, guys.
Fat bottom Betty's. Now, have you ever smoked acid, sweet tip? And what did you think about that experience?
Yeah, I mean it's situational. If you want to go in and get, I just want to taste something. I want it to be fruity. Okay, yeah, acid's good. And then, or, going in, especially as a newcomer, and you don't know what you're getting, and you don't know how to distinguish a flavored cigar from a non-flavored cigar, and you accidentally grab a flavored cigar, it's kind of a nice little surprise.
And it's a surprise. I don't know about nice.
honestly, I never smoked the flavored cigars, the infused cigars and stuff until after I started smoking cigars. So when I did finally get into like tasting acids and stuff like that, my first thought was, the acid blondies are like one of the number one cigars for new smokers. And if I smoked one of those first, it would probably turn me off on cigars completely.
Same here.
Yeah.
If that would have
very
been my first
pungent and
experience,
forward.
I would have been like,
Well, hey, I will one of the owners of Definition Cigars,
Neo.
was in the Leaf, I guess, last Wednesday. And I walked in there, and he made a great point. He goes, now, this is from a business perspective. However, he said, always keep your flavored cigars around because women love them. And so if you're a newbie and you want to go smoke a cigar and your girl wants to come along, your wife, or however it works and stuff, or you're smoking with some friends and some girls are there and they want to smoke as well, flavored cigars are a great go-to. And that's a great recommendation.
well, I don't think that they are gender specific, to be honest with you.
I would agree.
I mean-
That's the that's one market
I
trend.
think that is. I think that is like. I mean, because I know women that smoke cigars that smoke way bolder cigars than me.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I think you got to be careful on like pigeonholing women into that sector.
Yeah, well, that was a market thing that he had seen, and he had noticed whenever they would go to cigar events that they would have those flavored cigars, and they were a perfect way to spread the product around and go, okay,
Well,
here you go.
I think that even for guys.
Yeah.
I mean, are you aware that acids are the number one selling cigar in America?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
That's what I was going to get at. I don't know what the numbers are, but Drew Estate's portfolio is full of, I'm going to say probably a third of their portfolio.
At least
is all,
a third.
Yeah.
Fat Bottom Betties, the Tabacs, the
Deep dish,
Leches or whatever.
the Blondie,
all the
do they
acid
make the
lines.
naturals, or is that a different brand?
I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, that's...
But a third of their portfolio is flavored cigars, and Drew Estate is one of the highest grossing cigar companies on the planet.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a big marketplace for flavored cigars.
And I'll say this, Jonathan Drew,
Yeah.
the founder, he is one of the biggest reasons of the modern cigar boom. Because he put out cigars that anybody could try.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that right there is what you're saying. Anybody. Somebody off the street who doesn't smoke cigars and doesn't, particularly enjoy them. It's like the difference between drinking whiskey straight or mixing it. Some people want to mix it because they want it to taste good. Whereas some people want to drink it straight because they enjoy the notes, they enjoy the flavor, they enjoy this.
I don't mix mine because I want it to taste good.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so it's kind of that distinction. And so I feel like the acid cigars, the flavored cigars are the exact same kind of thing.
Right.
People
And then
want that flavor that they can definitely taste.
And I mean, hats off to Jonathan Drew and everything he's done for the industry and for the business that he runs. Dude is a master marketer and really went out on a limb to come out with the acid line.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was doing that.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? I'm going to make a cigar brand that tastes like fruit.
Yeah. Well, like my little brother's a perfect example.
Agree.
Yeah. He doesn't like cigars a whole lot, but he'll smoke an acid. So when I want to have a cigar,
Same with
obviously-
my brother.
Yeah. So you don't want to have a cigar alone. You want to smoke something that's big and bold and you can taste these different notes and everything like that, but you're smoking with somebody who goes, I don't really like cigars, but you want someone to smoke with because cigars are best enjoyed with friends, then you can pull
Dude,
out an acid.
I've taken some. I always take cigars with me when I go see my baby brother, and I wasted a lot of good cigars on that guy because he's like he's like 3 or 4 puffs in, and he's like, "You don't have any of those flavored ones?" And I'm like, "No." But he's not a regular cigar smoker.
Yeah.
He maybe smokes 2 cigars a year when I'm in town.
Yeah.
So that's
But
not
you
his
had a
thing.
cigar with your brother, so is it really a
Right.
waste?
Perfect example.
Well, I say wasted because he didn't smoke it all. But no, and I'll tell you the funny thing is, I've actually bought acid cigars at the convenience store, which I guess most people use as blunts.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's great." And I'm like, "Wow, okay. Hey, enjoy."
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, and for all the new cigar smokers, the best cigar you're going to have is based on who you're smoking it with and the time you had with that person. You know what I mean? Like the best cigars I remember smoking wasn't the cigar, it was the time I was spending with someone.
I could agree with that.
Like I remember smoking cigars with my dad before he passed, and I couldn't tell you what the cigar was, but man, that was like, my dad didn't even smoke cigars, but he was like, "Yeah, I'll smoke with you." And so that was a great experience. And it was me, my baby brother, my dad, and Tim sitting out on my dad's front porch smoking cigars. That was a time that you just never forget. And I want to say that it was maybe like a chateau from Arturo Fuente, because the neighbor smoked cigars and that's all he smoked. And he brought me some and he was telling me about how great they were. And I smoked it, and I was like, this is nothing close to my bamboo. Which was a shit cigar. Oops. Anyway, Zach had to go outside and pee, and I just dropped his phone on the floor. Anyway,
Sounds like a Zach problem.
right? Well, he doesn't even know. I'm going to say he knocked it off on his way out. Anyway, you're sitting in the lounge smoking. Be conscious of the people around you. You know what I mean? Don't take a big puff and then blow it in somebody's face.
Now, up in the air is always a great place to blow.
Absolutely. And then going back to ashing, though, like you said, a half inch is usually spot on. You go past a half inch, and there's a good chance the ash is going to break off. I don't know how many times Larry can tell you that I've told Brian, I'm like, dude, are you going to ash? And he's like, nah. And then, like, within 30 seconds, it falls off and lands right in his chest. And I'm like, see, I told you. And so now the other thing is, when I ash, like, I used to be like a hyper asher. And what I mean by that is I was just constantly ashing my cigar. And now I really don't even thump my cigar to ash it. I put it on the edge of the inner part of the ashtray, and I just roll it.
Yep.
Because now I'm not throwing ashes up into the air for other people to land on their clothes or whatever. And it just doesn't make a mess.
And the other thing about thumping them, too, is if you thump them too hard and you actually smack your cigar on the edge of the ashtray and it cracks it,
Oh, you're done.
done.
Yeah. So your phone fell when you got up.
Oh, I got it.
Okay, good. Well,
When you were talking about banging your cigar on the ashtray, did that. That was my go-to until Sam at the Leaf was like, no, don't do that.
Just a simple
And-
roll.
Yeah, he showed me how not to do it. Yeah, just roll.
now, let's say that you're in a heavy conversation
Yeah.
and your cigar goes out.
Yeah.
How do you relight it?
I don't know.
With the lighter.
Yeah, with a lighter.
I usually rub two sticks together. No, so
That takes away from the conversation.
one of the things that I learned, and I don't remember who taught me this, but when the cigar goes out, you don't want to relight this. So what you do is you find the edge of the ashtray and you put that on there and you just lightly rotate it, and it basically grinds off the old shit, and now you're relighting, leaving that rancid shit off of your cigar. Larry started doing that, and he like was blown away for weeks. Like, dude, that's a totally big game changer.
I'll usually purge it, too, before I relight it afterwards. Just blow in it lightly to blow out after you've knocked your ash. And
Especially if I know I'm going to relight a cigar. Like, I got to run in the house and take care of a couple things, and I'm going to come back out, and it's going to be, 15, 20 minutes. I know I'm going to have to relight it. I'll actually snip the end of the cigar off, and then I blow through it because I don't want that smoke that's in the cigar right now to stay there the whole time I'm gone.
Yeah,
And so it's almost like you're starting over,
yeah.
because if you don't do that at all and you just come out and relight that, it's not going to be a good experience. And I've done that where I've come out and thought that I was smoking the cigar that I left, but I had picked up a cigar that I'd smoked yesterday, and it was not a good experience. It was like, oh, that's gross.
I mean, it's just personal preference for me, but I'll almost never relight a cigar once it's cooled down. If I put one down and it's cooled down, I will probably never relight it.
I'm too cheap for that. I like to get my money's worth. Now, I
Very
will
rarely
say,
do I let them get to that
I was
point.
going to
though,
say, very rarely do I let a cigar go out. Usually, if I let a cigar go out, it's not because I'm running in the house. It's because I'm yakking.
Yeah.
But if a cigar is going out because I'm yakking, I'll relight it every time.
Yeah.
But I'm more conscious if I have to relight it once. Very, very, very rarely do I ever have to relight it twice.
Yeah.
Unless it's a construction issue or a humidification issue. And sometimes you'll be smoking a cigar that has too much humidity, and it just causes it not to burn.
Yeah. So what would you light your cigar with? What do you prefer? I mean, obviously a torch lighter is what we use most common, but you always hear, lighting with a match helps preserve the flavor or whatever it might
I
be.
think all that's bullshit.
Think so?
I do. Now, I will say this. For probably close to a year, maybe not quite a year, I lit all my cigars with a cedar stick. I thought that is the way that God meant for you to light a cigar. Now, I don't know if it's any better or any worse, but what I do know is it's a lot more effective to use a torch. It's a lot easier. And I'm not,
I've tried a few different methods, and to be honest, none of them have ever made a big enough difference in lighting my cigar that I preferred one method over the other.
Yeah.
At that point, it's convenience, and the torch does the job. It does it well.
Now, I will say this though. This is the biggest part of lighting it with a cedar stick that I loved. And that was, I love when I can light a cigar with a soft flame.
Yes, that's the next thing I was going to bring up. Is
So
soft
when
versus
you
hard
when
flame.
you have a soft flame and you can hold it in front of the cigar instead of like burning the cigar,
and when you draw, that flame is naturally going to be sucked into
it
the
goes
cigar.
in
Yeah.
versus I'm forcing the heat on it.
Yes.
And I do love that. In fact, I've got an Alec Bradley burner lighter there. Have you
Yeah.
ever used one of those? I don't know
No,
if this
I've not.
one has any.
Oh, I
fluid.
have. Yeah. I've used one at the Leaf before.
So, yeah, that's a soft flame, and that I love.
Those at home, it looks like a camp stove type flame.
It looks like a Brunson burner
Yeah,
in the science class.
Perfect. Yeah.
And
I didn't want to say that. I didn't know if everybody would know exactly what we're talking
You didn't
about.
want
We're not all that educated.
I thought you didn't want to.
We've already covered lab safety.
You're
On
right.
to the
We're
next
wearing
stuff. Yeah.
goggles. So I love that. I love the flame.
Yes.
And for the first year, maybe year and a half I had it, I love that lighter period.
Yeah.
But now the little clicker thing, you can see there's no click.
Yep.
So I have to light it with a torch in order to light it. Now it's a pain in the ass. So I can't even believe there's fluid in it.
Yeah. What's that? It's like the old deal, the
You
lighting
haven't
with
taken that to Jay to fix yet?
No, I haven't. I mean, last time I counted, I got 23 lighters in this shed. So when one doesn't work, I just reach for the next one. Now, to be fair, I mean, look, we've got 4 lighters, 5 lighters.
Now
right?
you got me looking around trying to count lighters.
There's 4, 5, 6, 7 just on this table. Have you seen this one? This is a Walmart $3 lighter.
It will work.
I mean,
will.
I don't really care for it. I think it's more of a cigarette lighter because the flame is so small, but I like the soft flame.
So
It will light.
It will light.
I feel like it's easier to screw up a light with a torch lighter
It is.
than it is with a soft flame.
I agree.
So if you're a newbie and you have, like I lit it with a Zippo, the Leaf at the old location had a Zippo that was out there for a while. I used the Zippo lighter and I preferred it because it was a soft flame and you could you could more likely get a good light when you have no idea what the hell you're doing.
You know, one of the hosts over at the Straight Cut, Mark.
Yeah.
You know Mark? He was on some of the Herfs way back when.
Oh, I've seen him a few times.
Yeah. You know what he lights his cigars with? A Bic lighter. And you know, he's like, people say that it taints the flavor of the cigar. He said, I'm no expert, but I think that's bullshit. That's all I use because I'm prone to losing lighters. And you know, some of these torch lighters are not cheap.
No.
No.
I mean, you on a good torch lighter, you're going to spend anywhere between 20 and the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want it to like have diamonds on it or a fold out dildo, you're going to pay more. At least that's been my experience.
You are more versed in that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
I am, so.
I'm very versed in lighters. Anyway, yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
A soft flame for a new cigar smoker, highly recommend you
absolutely.
try it at least and see what you think.
Yeah. And then, if you get a cigar at a shop and you bring it home and you're going to smoke it on the back porch or at a buddy's house and stuff, chances are you're only going to have access to a soft flame lighter. And it's way harder to screw up a light with a soft flame than it is with a torch. Because a
will
torch,
admit-
sorry, go ahead.
The first probably year of me smoking cigars, 90% of them I lit was with that long, big barbecue lighter.
Barbecue
because
lighter.
there's always one in the drawer.
Right.
Even when I didn't have a lighter, there was always one laying there, and it works.
And then you can, with a torch, like you were saying, where you add too much heat to it too quick, you burn half it, and it burns at a 45-degree or canoes on you. That's going to happen with a torch lighter if you don't know what you're doing.
And that's what I loved about the cedar stick.
Yeah.
Let me see that cedar plank there. And these are not really cedar sticks. This is just a very thin shaving. And
It's got tape on it. So
right, you can't. If you buy a cigar that has cedar wrapped around it and you're going to use it, which I don't recommend because it's so thin, you actually need a stick. And a great way to get those is ask at the cigar shop for some, because usually, like the leaf, they used to always have them in a jar.
Yeah.
But what they do is they take some of their boxes from cigar boxes that they're going to throw away, and they break out the cedar and just have like little planks. But these wrappers that go around cigars, they're super thin. So if you're going to use one, you probably want to fold it up like 4 times to where it's like that. And I folded it up. It's about the size of a cigarette now. But when you light that up, I mean, you can, well, this is like not even lighting, but you see how big and wide the flame is?
Yeah.
So you have a flame that is the same width or bigger than the tip of your cigar. So you're actually lighting the whole cigar.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about doing that.
And for those of y'all who are listening, that was the wrapper around my Opius Ex Fuente.
Yeah.
And it's smoking fantastically. So that's where that came from.
You know where that was actually a gift cigar
Really?
from Carlito Fuente.
Well, Carlito Fuente knows his cigars.
one would hope.
Do you know who Carlos? That's his picture. So, yeah, I mean, lighting cigars is definitely experience, and I think for me, I probably do the torch because I'm lazy. It's easy, it's fast, and I mean, I'm not always smoking at the lounge.
Yeah.
I smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
Even if you tell me I can't smoke in it, I'm smoking in it. Ask the
If
people.
there's not a sign, it is smoking for Rob.
Dude,
until somebody tells him no.
I walked into the Oasis liquor store not long ago, smoking a cigar, walked in and started looking at the bourbon. I asked a couple of questions. The lady's answering. And then she comes over there and she's like, "Sir, you can't smoke in here." And I was like, "There's no signs." And they made me take it out. But I love the not sign thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever me and my cousin bought
Called
our
city ordinance.
Whenever me and my cousin bought our inline skates back in the early 90s, we strapped them on and skated right out of the store into the mall. And we skated in the mall for a good 30 minutes before security caught us. And when they said, "You can't do that in here," and I said, "There's no signs," I use that one a lot. I carried a lit cigar and a glass of bourbon into a bar called Fat Bosses, sat down, smoking.
All right, for the listeners, in Rob's defense, Fat Bosses, their logo has a guy smoking a cigar in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good
And
place
so
to be.
Rob's a big picture guy. So if he
am.
sees the guy
I
doing
am.
it, he's
I'm
like,
very
maybe
visual.
I'm a boss. I boss people around.
So, and I'm fat. So, yeah, I walk in, I sit down, and of course, I have my cigar under the table.
Oh yeah.
Got my drink, and every once in a while I pull it out, take a puff, put it back down. And a guy walks by and says, "Hey, you can't smoke in here." And I was like, "There's no signs." And he's like, "You can't smoke anywhere in Abilene." And I was like, "I didn't know." So he's like, "You're going to have to leave." And I was like, "Okay." So I pick up my drink. I got my cigar. I start walking out. And he's like, "Hey, you can't take that drink with you." And I was like, "I brought it in." And he's like, "You're not supposed to bring your own drinks in." And I was like, "You got a doorman." I walked in with a cigar and a drink, and he didn't say shit.
Guy looked like a boss. The way he should be here.
Dude, hey, the dude was yakking with a couple of young pretty girls.
Yeah.
didn't pay no mind to me.
Hey, look, being ugly and walking like you know where you're going, hey, you can get into a lot of places.
And a lot of trouble.
It's like you're invisible.
Yeah, and a lot of trouble. So anyway, we were talking about, I guess you kind of throw in cigar etiquette with a new cigar smoker.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys that smoke all the time, or at least regularly, you pay attention to the way that you act in a cigar lounge. You're at home in your backyard, do whatever the hell you want to do. But when you're in a lounge with other people, you need to be mindful. Like, you weren't in here, but we were like, don't blow your smoke in someone's face.
Oh, gosh, yes. Absolutely.
And
or no, like, all right, so perfect example is earlier today I was at the Leaf, and I was sitting next to Larry's shoulder, and I had my cigar in my left hand, and I looked over.
It's drifting right
it's
at him.
drifting right into Larry's face, and he's trying to mess with his phone and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and move that because I'm nothing if not coachable, and I know Larry's going to tell me something that I'm doing wrong. And so I just know right there I don't want it in Larry's face.
Right.
But it's easy, especially in a packed cigar lounge, to not realize where your smoke's going.
Absolutely.
And so it's stuff to pay attention to what you're doing.
The one smoke a lot of people don't pay attention to, especially new people, and I've done it too in the past, in the beginning. When you put your cigar out, when you're done with it, don't take it and like put it out like a cigarette. You smash it.
Don't snuff it.
Yeah, it
Did you
puts
know
off
that?
this
Yeah.
awful.
No, I'm a snuffer.
Oh,
It-
no.
Hey, everyone listening, I'm being taught right now. This is happening.
It puts off foul, really burnt, nasty smoke, and lots of it.
And
So when you
that's-
put your
hey,
cigarette
look,
out,
you
or
just
your
do
cigar
that.
out,
Look, that's it. Boom.
roll it, set it down, let it go out on its own.
Like
it will.
I'll literally leave it like this, or if I don't like putting it in the ashtray if it's like pretty full, because I don't want my cigar catching something else on fire.
Yeah.
So if it's empty, I'll just lay it in there.
Yeah.
If it's not empty, I'll just set it right there, and then I walk
I
away.
usually put mine off in a corner like that, so it's away from the
Yeah.
holders.
Yeah.
And then I
just
guess worst
let it
case
go
scenario
out.
just becomes a cigar incense, which you're in a
Well,
cigar
if
shop,
you're
so
not
you probably
puffing
like
on
that.
it, it'll go out relatively quick.
Yeah.
But if you smash it, then it opens up
And
the
it
tobacco.
burns a
and
long
it burns
time.
a long time. It burns all that surface area, and it's just this nasty smoke that permeates everybody in the.
Don't snuff.
Okay.
Do not snuff.
Yeah.
That's a big etiquette thing.
Okay.
And I was the same. I snuffed it one time because I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, I smoked cigarettes for 24 years, and
That's how you put them out.
right. And so you don't do that. What are some of the other don'ts when you're at a cigar lounge?
Mooch.
Yeah. And
There's a lot of dry beggars in lounges.
yeah, and
Well, so, all right, just asking for a cigar or
mooching off of anybody for a bunch of shit and you not contributing. That's my idea of a mooch. Like when we show up with cigars and booze.
my biggest deal is I at least once every 3 or 4 times I go in, I'll put my bottle of bourbon on the counter.
Yeah.
Just cause.
My thing is, and you've been around long enough
Yeah.
to see, when I show up with booze,
Yeah.
anybody wants a drink, come help
Well,
yourself.
and then half the time you will come in at, like last night. I was in a completely separate part where everyone else was. Sorry, not last night, Thursday night. Where everyone else was, I was doing work, and then Ed came over and says, "Hey, would you like a glass of bourbon?" Absolutely. And so sometimes it's come up and offered to you, but you need to, like, perfect example. At least at some other point, bring yours out.
Have you ever met Scott Fritz?
Yes.
So Scott Fritz never, ever, ever offers his booze to anyone. But if you say, does anybody want a drink? He's the first one there.
Yeah.
That's a mooch.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll give you an extreme example. So, do you know Presley? You know Presley. Guy always wears a green vest.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So he came in for his birthday. I don't remember how old he is. Probably 40.
Yeah.
He comes in and he literally gives everyone in the back a $20 gift card or $30 gift card. What was it?
I think it was 30.
$30 gift card just to everyone. And he gives Fritz a $30 gift card. Fritz goes and gets a 1926 Padron, goes back there, goes to his locker, pulls out, a 12, 15-year-old bottle of scotch that's supposed to be really rare or something for him. And he takes it over to Presley and goes, "Hey, man, did you see this bottle I have?" And Presley's like, "Oh, no, that's nice, man. I'd love to try that." And he's like, "Oh, no, I got to put this up." And he puts it up and then lights up the cigar that Presley just bought for him and drinks his own liquor.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. I mean, that is not a way to make friends in a cigars lounge.
That's what we refer to as getting fritzed.
Yeah, that's what we call you just got fritzed.
Nope.
So, no, but don't be a mooch. And I mean, I'm not saying you got to go in and share what you have with everyone.
Yeah.
But if you're not sharing, don't be mooching.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's fair. And me and Larry, I think me and Larry are the prime, and Ed, when we show up with booze, we're happy for everybody to have a drink. Except Fritz.
Well, I have a strict 2 turn down policy. I'll turn it down twice, and the third time I have to have it. You and Larry both have brought me to that where I'm like, all right, cool. They really want to share it. And it's always been good. I've never had bad booze from either one of y'all.
Well, we like to drink the good stuff.
And it's fair.
So, and it's like we like to smoke the good stuff.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what else would you say, Z? Anything else that's popping out that's as far as a new cigar smoker or just a
Don't
young?
ash the table. Other etiquette as well. Like, get your ash in the ashtray.
Also, clean up after yourself.
Yes. Oh, that's big for me. Yeah, I that's big for me. I don't like. Did I leave somewhere messy? There?
No.
Okay. All right.
and I have left a mess before, but I try to take my glasses from my bourbon,
Yep.
my cellophane wrapper, whatever it is, and clean up my little area. Because even though the lounge is going to come around and clean for you, don't give them extra work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like bust your own table. I mean, come on.
They may be busy up there. You get up and leave, and the next guy comes in, and he's going to sit down and be like, "Oh, this place is trashed." Well, that's not the lounge's fault that you left a big mess.
Yeah.
You know, my biggest tip for any new cigar smoker is, listen to people, take some advice. You know, trial and error is the best way to get there. But in the end, that's your cigar. That's your hour of enjoyment. That's your time to just chill. Do you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, what we all love about cigars when we're smoking with other people is that it really brings people together. Mm-hmm. And so don't be the asshole that is not letting that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, hey guys, I mean, I think we covered just about everything. You're a new guy. You got any questions?
So, I was going to make a comment. I discovered this recently. So, I have had an issue lately where I'm smoking and it'll burn weird. It'll burn at an angle. It'll burn, you light it good. You get a good light, and it just burns odd on you. And so, what do you do with a cigar that starts burning odd? I have found.
Well, you got to be a little more specific than just say odd.
Okay, so
There's a lot of odd.
Yeah, there's a lot of leeway there.
That's a great point. So you have a good cut, you have a good light, and it just burns sideways on you, and so you get that
Canoeing.
Yeah, so it burns at about a 45-degree angle, and so I've always tried to roll it so that the heat's obviously going to go up. It's going to
You know what?
rise.
I do the same thing.
Yes.
I don't know if that makes a difference.
I don't.
But
I don't
I'm
know.
just like physics.
Yeah.
Heat rises.
That's exactly it.
Now, I will say this too. Now, and I hate it when this happens.
Yeah.
When it's canoeing, but it's canoeing on the bottom.
Yes.
So I don't catch it because I don't see it.
Yeah.
And then whenever I come up to take a puff, or I ash.
Yeah.
And when the ash goes off, half of your cigar comes off, but the side of it is sticking up.
Yeah.
And it's like, so
And
then I
so-
take my torch and I burn that off.
Yep.
And then a lot of times I'll take a straight cut and I'll clip that piece off and then relight just that section.
I've done that before, and then like that Pappy Van Winkle we smoked a couple shows ago, where yours was excellent. The
Awesome.
cigar, it was a good cigar. I just had a weird burn on it. It canoed on me. I had to baby it here and there, light one side, try and even up the ash and stuff. What I have found is if I just stop puffing on it, I get into a good conversation.
A lot of times it'll correct itself.
That's exactly it. And so there you let the construction of the cigar do itself, because heat's going to do what it wants to. And it's going to take weird paths, and sometimes it's going to burn odd. But if you just step away from it and let the construction do its work and let that heat kind of burn unassisted for a minute, it'll correct itself. And so I've started doing that, and I've had pretty good success with it.
Nice.
Because, you definitely don't want an ugly looking cigar while you're smoking it.
And that's a lot of just gaining experience. You know what I mean? You didn't know what to do the first time.
Yes.
You tried something, it didn't work.
Yep.
You tried something else. And so, I mean, that's gaining experience in the trial and error method, which is pretty much the way I've learned everything in my life. A lot of errors. Yeah,
and where I know that I've got a good cigar smoking, and I've got it where I want it, is when you draw on it. If you can see the ember flare up on the top of your cigar from where you're drawing, that's how you know. Okay, cool. Whatever I've trying to fix has been fixed, and I'm getting a good draw, and everything's getting burned evenly.
Right. And I see people like they'll have an uneven burn, and they're like using a single torch to touch
I'm
it up.
guilty of touching up my cigars before they get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. You try
I'm very proactive at that.
Yeah.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Nip it. So, yeah, I think that is something that you learn over time. I don't think anyone ever showed me how to do that, but I've seen other people doing it.
Yes.
And I've been like, oh, they're touching it up so they don't get so canoed.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you just barely touch it up, it's good to go.
Yeah, because it's already hot.
And you don't want to just
All you
burn
really
the
gotta
shit
do
out of
is
it. Heat it.
Start out at the end of the cigar and work your way towards the canoe. You're just burning that outer wrapper down enough to meet the rest or the end of the canoe.
Right.
And it'll usually correct itself after a couple of puffs, as long as you get to that point.
And you don't want to just burn the shit out of one side.
No,
you know what I
because
mean?
if you burn past the canoe, now you're going to have a canoe in the other way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. So, if you have any questions that maybe we didn't cover, shoot me a email. We're happy to answer questions. It's rob@cigartalkpodcast.com. And then let's talk about our sponsors, and then we'll come back and name our top 15 cigars we've smoked over the last week. So I'll have 5. Zach will have 2.
Yeah. You hit it right on the head.
And Zeka will have 7. Anyway, so Tabanero cigars, if you haven't had those, the Sun Grown is one of my major go-to cigars. Construction is 99% on target. I've had very, very few issues, and I've actually smoked somewhere in the neighborhood of about 17 boxes of Tabaneros in the last year. Then also McAuliffe, I mean, the Medallia. You smoke Medallias. Yeah.
I just picked up 5 more because they got the pretty purple label on them still. So
yeah, and those have got age. And so have you smoked a Medallia?
I've not.
I think I may have one. I'll have to
poor
look.
deprived child.
Dude, that's a great stick. Anytime I give that cigar to someone, they are like blown away the first time they smoke it.
Yeah.
You know Carlos?
Yeah.
He was on the show, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I gave him one, and he was just like, that is a really good. I mean, he just kept going on and on. Mm-hmm. And it is a very good cigar.
Thank you.
And look down the show notes. I've got links for Tabanero and for McAuliffe. If you're not an ambassador, you can click on the link and go sign up. They'll send you a challenge coin and a written card welcoming you to the. Are you an ambassador?
I've got a coin.
Okay, well, then you're an ambassador.
One would think.
Right? Unless he stole it.
Nope.
Okay. And then let's talk about the Leaf, our home away from home. And, I spend as much time as I possibly can there. It's where I want to be. Like, have you seen the Jeep I've been driving?
Yeah.
So I fixed it finally. And anyway, I've been driving it for about 2 weeks, and it's only been from my house to the Leaf and back. Because that's really the only place I go unless I'm working, then I'm in my work car.
Yeah. It's Cheers.
It is
Yeah.
Cheers.
It's Cheers, man.
But better.
Yeah. Well, what I like is when you walk in, everybody knows your name.
And just like with Ed.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
He's like Norm, but a skinny old man.
yeah.
But, I mean, you just get to know people on a level at a cigar lounge that you would never get to know someone at another type venue.
And age does not matter.
AIDS?
Age.
Oh, age. I was like, don't be licking the cigar before you cut it if you have AIDS.
Age.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, age doesn't matter. Your income level doesn't matter. Your skin tone doesn't matter.
Yep.
I mean, it's the great equalizer, I heard people say.
Your ability to play well with others does matter.
That does matter. Yeah. Some people don't play well with others, and those people are usually the outcasts at the lounge.
Rats.
Fritz. Stephanie. So anyway, the Leaf is a great place, and there's their phone number down in the show notes. If you want to call them up, they carry both McAuliffe and Tabanero cigars. And so you can call them up, let them know that Cigar Talk sent you, and they'll usually do something for you like free shipping or 10% off. So just tell them Rob said give you a call, and they'll take care of you. And then our last sponsor is Case Elegance. And if you are in the market for a humidor, you've bought one.
Yep, they're excellent.
And I mean, you know, I had somebody comment on Twitter a few days ago about he didn't realize how the run-of-the-mill humidor doesn't even have cedar in it.
Oh, yeah.
That blew me away. I was, like, shocked. And in case you don't know, I don't know, it's been a while now. What, 2 or 3 months? Maybe 4 months ago, I took a radial saw or a hand saw, skill saw, and I literally cut a $130 humidor in half, and then I cut a very similar Case Elegance humidor that was also $130 in half, and the Case Elegance had freaking cedar wood like it should.
Yep.
And the other one had paper that looked like cedar. You really couldn't tell that it was not cedar.
Yeah.
And then underneath the paper, it was just MFD.
Yep.
No cedar at all. And so I've heard a lot of people say, man, I cannot get my humidor to stay level.
I was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, you had the same problem.
I couldn't even get it seasoned, not even to stay level. I just couldn't get it seasoned.
Right. And it's like, how many packs do I need to be putting in here?
Yeah.
And I went through the same problem because I remember when I first started, my first humidor, my second humidor was like 100 count box, and it looked like a treasure chest.
Yeah.
It was like, straight up on the sides, but the top was like a dome, and it was glass. Looked beautiful. It was like $180, and I could not keep that thing seasoned. And I just thought it was because of the glass. I was like, that glass is letting air in or something, and it possibly may.
Glass top humidors do leak like a sieve.
Right.
Not my Case Elegance humidor.
Yep.
But
That's a great
most
point.
do.
Mine's glass top, and I think I have to put legitimately 6 to 11 drops of the humidor fluid, maybe twice a month, if that.
That's more often than I do.
Yeah.
Because, but I don't do 6 or 8 drops. I just put it down in the tray, fill it up, and just let it go until I see the numbers going down.
Yeah.
Now, I will say my Octador, which is where I really don't smoke out of it. I just put cigars in there that I'm not going to smoke for a while. And my battery went dead in my hygrometer. So I got to replace the battery because I don't know what the humidity is in there. But the experience I've had over the last year and a half with it, I'm pretty comfortable knowing that it has the liquid in there, so it's maintaining.
Yeah.
But I do need to change out the battery, which is like 50 cents.
Yeah.
now, if you had their subscription where they send you new batteries every year with the fluid,
well, and
just saying.
And that's a great point. Is Case Elegance offers and their subscription's a great deal.
Oh yeah,
$39.
$39 a year. And you don't have to keep going out and buying stuff to replenish what you have. So
no, my year was actually up in about a month and a half ago, and I got an email saying that I was getting something, and then a box showed up at my
you didn't have to worry about it.
It had 4 more bottles. It had 2 of the dry climate and 2 of the regular climate. Each box had the little,
crystals.
Yeah, little crystals in it, and it had 2 batteries in it.
Oh, nice.
For the hydrometer.
So they send you 2 batteries.
2
I didn't
batteries
realize that.
and 4 bottles of good stuff.
Gotcha.
Eh.
Well, I need to do that because I don't I mean, I'm the world's worst at being like, oh, I got to go buy one of those little weird batteries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's 2032.
Right. 2032, he says.
That's the battery.
So anyway, look down the show notes, and if you use, and I'll put
Show notes.
I'll put the code on there. But if you use Cigar Talk or Cigar Talk coin, they'll give you 10% off and send you a challenge coin that has Cigar Talk's logo on one side and their logo on the other. Cool coins.
They are.
So anyway, let's jump right in and talk about our top 5 each cigars. You want to go first?
Sure. So I smoked, actually, this morning, the Drew Estate Herrera Esteli Brazilian Maduro.
I don't think I've ever had that. Have you had that?
Was tasty.
You know what? I am a fan of the Brazilian leaves.
Yeah.
They're more on the sweet side.
Yeah.
They're more on the chocolatey side.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Well, that was the one that, it was great flavor. Enjoyed it. But that was the one where I was waiting in line and I dropped it and it, cracked the crown. And I still cut it, still smoked it. I thought it was going to be a terrible smoke because I jacked up the draw, and nope, smoked great. Construction was good. Didn't have to nurse it. Lit it. I think I let it go out once, and it was
and tell everybody what the name is one more time.
the Drew Estate Herrera Esteli Brazilian Maduro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in my experience, I really like the Brazilian leaf, and another leaf that's very similar to that is the Costa Rican leaves.
Really.
Very much that same
Yeah.
sweet taste to the dark wrapper.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, or at least for my experience, it's not been spicy. It's been very just mellow, good, rich, like soil.
Yeah.
Like a volcanic, you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I had just the Drew Estate Undercrown, and that was really, really good.
I see, and sometimes I am a little prejudiced. I don't smoke a lot of Drew Estates. Do you?
I do not.
And I'm not saying they don't make great cigars. Like I had a couple of friends text me last night. We were in a chat, and they were talking about League of Nines, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not a big fan. And they were like, I love those cigars, and I was
Drew
like,
Estate has a lot of good cigars in their portfolio, but we were talking earlier about how Drew Estate is a good entry level brand for cigar smokers, and he's done a great job at making a cigar for everyone. But in the same breath, a lot of Drew Estate cigars are very mundane for me. They're not bad. They're just not.
that's how the League of Nine is for me. Like
Yeah.
it is
Exciting.
a good cigar.
I'm not going to say I won't smoke them, but they just don't have that wow factor that I get from a lot of other cigars.
And I haven't experienced a lot of transitions either in the experience with Drew Estate.
Yeah.
Have you?
No,
Which one?
the Undercrown 10 in the Lonsdale.
Yep,
the
I had that.
factory floor.
I've never had that.
That's actually a decent complex.
Okay.
It's a nice ride.
Yeah.
And the
and
Lonsdale
I love
is great.
Lonsdales, dude. And Lonsdales are usually 6.5 by 40.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. And I
think
love
this one's
smaller
a
ring
6.5
gauge.
by 44. It's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah, that's a great stick. All right, what else you got?
Well, those are my two. I don't smoke as much as y'all. So, yeah.
He took it literal.
All right, so I'm going to be doing 8. Well, for me this week, I mean, it's not hard for me to come up with 5. I mean, I've had that many today. So, what was the cigar you gave me earlier?
That one is amazing. That's actually probably one of the better ones I've smoked this week, too. But that's the Stolen Throne Call to Arms.
Yeah, I never even seen that cigar.
Amazing
That's how
Sumatra.
you know it's probably going to be a pretty good cigar. When it sounds super badass. Like
Well-
that's an origin story of like a hero right there.
You know how I know it's going to be badass? Is that Zake is pulling it out of his humidor
Yeah, that is
carry
true.
case. I'm like, I can't wait to see what he's got next. Now, I will say this. It tunnel burned on me, and so I smoked. What's that?
That's a special treat.
Oh, dude.
Tatawahe CQ2. I think that's 2016, 17. something like
Nice. Thank you. Muchas gracias. So I'm smoking that cigar, Call to Arms, and it smokes great for the first probably inch and a half. And then I can see it's tunnel burning early on. And one of the things that I do is I'll just pinch it down really tight right in the middle. Because now it can't tunnel burn because there's zero oxygen that can go through the middle.
Yeah.
And, dude, I smoked, by pinching it, I smoked up the next 2 inches, and then it just fixed itself, and I enjoyed the rest of the cigar.
Let the construction do its work.
And it was a great cigar. Yeah. Like, I had not smoked that before. I like it better than the one with the crow on the crown. What's that one called? Crook of the Crown. I think that's a good cigar, but I don't think it's a great cigar. That was a great cigar. Now, a big part of that for me is that the Vitola, that 6x46, I dig that. I really dig that. Now, how are you on Vitola sizes? Like,
no, I mean,
you're not even to that point.
Not even to that point.
Gotcha.
All right, for newbies, explain the Vitola.
So, Vitola is a fancy word for size.
Okay.
And when you see a 50 by 52,
okay.
a 50 by, or a 5 by, I said 50 by 52, 5 by 52.
So this, I feel like right now, like this is like naming like caliber sizes. Like, okay, yeah, I know 9
it's
millimeter,
very
5.56,
much,
and 7.62, but I don't really know what that is.
In the end, a 60 ring gauge is equivalent to 1 inch in diameter.
Okay.
Right.
So a 48 ring gauge would be just over a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch almost.
Yeah. So the double digit number, in most cases, I don't know very many double digit lengths, but the single digit number is how long it is.
Okay. So when you say a 5 by 52, you're talking it's 5
this
inches
is 6
long.
by 48. That's 6 inches long, 48 ring gauge.
Bam. And so how's that going to affect the smoke?
Well, for me personally, I think the smaller the ring gauge, and there is always an exception because I don't really smoke anything under 40. I know you do. But for me, my sweet spot is 46 to 50. I love, because it's not too fat. And just me personally, I feel like you get the best flavors, the best transitions, all of that in that smaller ring gauge. Yeah. Because when you look at the ratio of wrapper versus filler, you're not getting too much of either one.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to a 60 ring gauge, think about how much bigger around that cigar is.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been told by a cigar guy that makes cigars, he's like, think about this. The wrapper is usually the most expensive leaf in the cigar.
That would make sense.
And it's not, now, we talked about this not long ago. I've heard people say that, well, the wrapper's 70% of the flavor. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I've felt that way for the longest time, but I've been proven wrong.
So, I don't know if you saw what we did not long ago, but we actually cut about this much all the way around and just slid the wrapper right off. And I'd done that before, and I was like, yeah, it's different, but I don't really know. So what I did is I did it again on a Medallia because I smoke that cigar so often. I know that cigar like the back of my hand. And you don't even have to cut off a full inch, but you light it up, and it's like you recognize flavors of that cigar, but it's not, it's just something's not right about it. And then as soon as you start smoking it up far enough that it goes back into the wrapper, so after doing that, I'm like, I don't think you can put a percentage on what the wrapper does for the cigar as far as flavor. I think it's more of what the wrapper does to enhance the flavors of that cigar.
Like the sugar and sweet tea.
Boom. Boom. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
You know, sweet tea, you drink it, but you know, or regular tea, but you know, that's just throw all that sugar in there and it just makes it that much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't drink a lot of sweet tea,
I
but
don't either. Exactly.
All those Southern listeners will respect that.
Yeah. So I agree with that analogy 100%. So, but when you get a 60 ring gauge, you're filling that whole cigar up with just a little bit of wrapper.
Yeah.
So you're getting what I was told was the cheapest leaf in the cigar is the filler.
Yeah.
So you're actually you're getting more cheap tobacco. And if you notice, a lot of times when you go to cigar shops, those 60 ring gauges, they're not more expensive.
Yeah.
Why not? If they're using more tobacco, because they're using more cheaper tobacco. So it doesn't jack up the price because it's fatter. A Lancero, most of those are way more expensive.
And that's because to get a 7.5-inch wrapper leaf, to roll the Lancero, it's almost the whole leaf just goes to that one cigar, as opposed to like a Robusto or something. They can cut that leaf in half and get 2 cigars out of it.
But you're using the highest dollar leaf as the wrapper, and if that's the whole cigar, it makes the cigar more expensive. And, whenever I was a new cigar smoker, I was completely backwards. I would walk in and see a 60 ring gauge, and I was like, well, I'm going to get the 6x60 because look how much tobacco, or look how much cigar I'm getting, and it's cheaper or the same price. That's a better deal.
You get more cigar per your buck.
And now I don't smoke 6x60s. It's very, very rare that I smoke a 6x60, and 90% of the time, if I'm smoking a big ring gauge, it's almost always box press. Like the Viva La Vida Club 500, like I'll smoke that. It's a 6x60. The CAO Flathead, I'll smoke that on occasion.
Yeah.
But it's a box press, so it doesn't seem so big because they compact it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know how we got off on that, but anyway.
I asked.
Oh, shut up. No, good question, though.
Yeah.
Number 2.
What's that?
Number 2.
Oh, number 2. Wow, I got a long ways to go. So I also had the Green Band Southern Draw done by AJ Fernandez, and I probably can't remember the name of the cigar. Do you know which one the Southern Draw is?
I do not.
All right, well, that was
thank you for that Lancero.
Oh.
I don't smoke as much Southern Draw as I should, but that Cudzo Lancero was pretty good.
awesome. Oh, well, absolutely. Southern Draw is not always one of the cigars that I go to, but then when I do go to it, I'm like, why don't I go to these more often? And then I don't go to them again for a really long time.
Right.
And then also this week I had the I'm going to try not to mess this up. The Dias de Gloria from AJ Fernandez. The bright red box, great cigar. It's full bodied, and so almost with every AJ made cigar that he makes for his own line, you're going to get that pepper, that leather flavor, which I do like from time to time. And then next on my list is going to be the Tabanero Connecticut. I had one 2-3 days ago with coffee, and dude, that is a Connecticut that I really love. It's not too light. It's not too strong for like your first cigar of the day at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, do you smoke in the morning?
I have. Yes. I mean,
Okay.
not very often.
Right.
Usually it's a weekend deal. The wife's out of town or she's still asleep or whatever. I'll sit down with a cup of coffee, and not lately because it's so friggin' hot. But once it cools off, I think I'll be doing
getting
a
there.
lot more.
It's
We're
getting
getting
there.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, I love sitting out on the patio and smoking when the weather's really
Oh,
nice.
gosh, yes.
And in Texas, that's October and April.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're screwed.
Well, if you're fat, you get like October, November, and then it starts being semi-nice like midway through February.
Dude, I was talking to, I call him Patty Sue, but on the Discord, Patrick.
Okay.
And he was like, dude, man, it's already starting to get cold. I'm not going to be able to be smoking much longer. And I was like, are you serious?
That dude literally quit smoking from like Halloween till like Valentine's Day
Or further than
April
that.
Fools.
Yeah.
Put on a jacket, my dude.
Well, he lives
in Minnesota.
Yeah, he lives in Minnesota. I told him he should get one of those ice fishing tents. Put a heater in there.
Well, a lot of people to do.
Yeah, well, Nick from Cigar Pulpit, he bought one. He said it's great. So, and it's not that expensive.
Nah, $150, $200 by the time you get a little exhaust fan and a heater.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to smoke outside and you can't smoke inside and you live in the North Pole, it's worth the investment.
Yeah. Or American Siberia. It's Minnesota.
And I've
North Dakota.
dude, I had my patio for the mother-in-law apartment.
Huh.
Like the support poles that come down for the patio, I had taken a 40-foot tarp, strapped it to those poles all the way down, and I had one of those big giant heaters, the propane.
Yeah.
And I still froze my balls off.
Well, the biggest thing you got to tackle here's the wind. That's a big issue because I have smoked a really good cigar, and I knew it was a good cigar outside, and it was just not even a really windy day, just slightly windy, and it just.
Are you aware that
ballooned on
Abilene
me.
is in the top 5 windiest cities in America?
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
I did not think they would, we would be there.
Where's Lubbock there? Because I feel like the wind in Lubbock
It's number
is
2,
Yeah.
behind Chicago.
So it's
That
Chicago
says a
and then
lot
Lubbock,
because
yeah.
where I live at, I get the Santa Ana winds come off the mountains into my property
Yeah, but you're not
every
in
day about 1 o'clock.
You're not in a city. You're out in the country.
No, in the city.
It doesn't look like you're in the city.
Literally, my house is 8 miles from my warehouse. It's 4 miles from the closest big shopping complexes and everything.
Well, when you
And
see
2
where he's
miles of
smoking, it
that is
looks
dirt
like you're
road.
in the Mojave Desert looking at the mountains.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to get that far up out of the hustle and bustle, but I'm
Nice.
still very much into the heart of Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia, and there's probably 250,000
Wow.
between the 3 cities.
Very cool. Next on my list at number 4, was the Intemperance Maduro, and I had it in the box press, which is like a 4.5 by probably 52. I don't know exactly. Romacraft names their cigar vitolas crazy shit.
I'm not real hip on the intemperance names, but yeah,
Yeah, so
probably a brotherly kindness or something.
I have no idea. I'm just like, I like that size, but it was a really nice smoke. It burned very well, and so it had been a while since I'd smoked one. Good smoke. And then I'm going to wrap it up with, I'm going to say the Casa Cuba, the one I smoked today. I've smoked at least 5 of those this week. I think it's a great stick, and the fact that I found out that it's only available at the brick and mortars made me want them even more.
Awesome.
So if you haven't tried that one, and I told you, what was the other Fuente that I told you I just ordered? It's the one with the A and the F on the band. I'll have to look it up while you're telling us your 5. So go for it, bro.
So, actually, I've smoked a lot of great cigars this week, but
He only smokes great cigars.
with listening to the show and stuff, and then you guys talking about the pre-release and all that Viva La Vida talk and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've been sitting in my humidor for about a year now. I pulled out one of the Diademas Finas Viva La Vidas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a great cigar. Another one that I've smoked quite a few this week is the Patina Sumatra Copper.
I've only had the patina once, and it wasn't that one. It's one that you gave me, and that was a very nice smoke.
It's probably, I don't know, the Call to Arms, which is another one, would be number 3 on my list, but it's a battle between those two on my favorite Sumatra. They're both great cigars.
Okay.
Both of them are in the same 6x46 Vitola, and just great.
Arturo Fuente Especials.
Especials.
Yeah. That's another one that's not considered to be the upper tier, but they're just solid smokes. I'll give you one when I get them.
I will toss mine in there since I only gave 2. Divine Inspiration, I did smoke that the other day.
How was it for you?
Spectacular.
Okay, good.
I was
good.
outside, it was windy, and it still smoked great flavor, easy cigar. I mean, I didn't have to, I lit it and it was it.
Now, have you had the Divine Inspiration?
I have.
You can't get them anywhere.
No, you can, but you're going to pay for it.
Well, yeah, I actually, every single place I looked for it was sold out, except for one, and they were asking $650 for that one box. And I was like, yeah, I'm not paying that. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, man. Sorry.
So number 4 would be the Tatuaje Fausto.
Oh, I do love that.
166.
Oh, yeah.
Just that's another one that's getting harder and harder to find, but man, it's a great cigar.
It is a great cigar. In fact, I mean, my experience with Tatuaje is not near what yours is. Mine's very limited, but that is probably the top one that I like from them.
Well, that one's probably going to be a shitty cigar that's going to blow up and crack on you and everything because
Every time he gives me a cigar, it has issues.
Oh, no.
if you ever want to give Rob a shitty cigar, just take whatever you want and give it to me, and I'll hand it to him.
And the funny thing is, he has sent me and Bryant cigars. We light up the exact same, just like when me and you smoked and yours went bad.
Yeah.
Mine goes bad. His is perfect. All right. What else you got?
The last one was Monday night before I left. I sat down on my porch with my beautiful view. The original release CAO Amazon Basin.
Oh, original release.
Original release.
So that's like a 4 or 5 year old cigar.
No, it's 2014.
Whoo.
So 7, 8 years old now.
I remember when those first came out. I mean, I remember they were like the box was full, and just that it didn't have a band, but it had a rope of tobacco around it. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I smoked it, and like I think I smoked one a day for a long time, and then unfortunately I told Bryant about them, and then he went and bought them all.
I have
It's a
actually
great
smoked
cigar.
one of those.
They're great.
Yeah. And we're really
I've
good.
actually yet to smoke the re-release of them because I've been smoking on the original release box.
Wow, very nice.
Amazing cigar.
Whenever I bought the box of the Craft 22, I originally said I would save them for a year, and then like the next day I said at least 6 months. So I'm pretty sure it's only going to be 6 months because I'm really starting to get the itch to try them.
You haven't smoked one yet at all?
Bryant gave me one out of his box, but at the same time, he bought the box and gave me one to where these have been sitting. You know what I mean? So I think what I will try to do is smoke one and not smoke more than one a month. That way I'll actually end up having some smokes that were a year old.
It's valid.
How many are in there? 10?
10.
So 10 months, if I start when they're 6, I'll get 4 of them a year old and plus. All right. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. And make sure you send me some emails, and I'll be happy to answer questions. And until next time,
Keep smoking.
Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet.